Good morning on this Monday, May 24th, 2021. Let it be known, this morning, our guest, Kellene Diana, the founder of the Greenheart Community Incorporated, a mental health organization that provides resources and support to those healing from anxiety and depression. She also founded Greenheart University, where folks can learn about the various ways to cope with mental illness. But first, let us bring on our president and CEO, Dr. Ben Chavis. Good morning, Dr. Chavis. Dr. Chavis, you are on mute.
Thank you. Good morning. I had mute to block the sound. I'm at Newark Penn Station, getting ready to head to Washington, D.C., but I'll be on the program. On behalf of the Black Press of America, we welcome everybody. Karen Carter Richards, our distinguished chair. 230 African-American owned newspapers all over the United States. Welcome to Let It Be Known.
Thanks, Dr. Chavis. And the headlines this morning: Henry McCollum and Leon Brown, two brothers from Red Springs, North Carolina, who spent decades in prison for a crime they did not commit, have finally received a $75 million settlement more than 6 years after they were exonerated. A jury recently decided that the half-brothers should receive $1 million for each year spent behind bars, which is equivalent to $31 million each in compensatory damages, as well as $13 million in punitive damages. The settlement ends the decades-long wait for justice to be fully served for the two men. A great day for these two brothers, Henry McCollum and Leon Brown.
Absolutely. It's a great victory. And it shows you that when we dismantle the racism in the criminal justice system, we have to go back and repair some of the damage. A lot of the damage, massive damage has been done to Black families, Black men, Black women, Black children, Black communities. So North Carolina did the right thing in this instance.
Yeah, absolutely. The two had always maintained their innocence ever since they were arrested in 1983 on charges of rape and murder of an 11-year-old girl. So they were convicted, sentenced to death, Dr. Chavis, and they both spent 31 years in prison. Finally, before some DNA, after all these years, helped to exonerate them. So again, a really, really big win for these guys, a victory for these two men. And in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Sentinel reports that California Attorney General Rob Bonta announced that he has created a new bureau within the Department of Justice dedicated to fighting discrimination and investigating hate crimes. Bonta said the new Bureau of Racial Justice, which will be housed under the Civil Rights Enforcement Section, will also support the California task force that the state has charged with studying the impact of slavery and Jim Crow and coming up with reparations recommendations for African Americans in California and around the country. Again, another move there, Dr. Chavis, toward justice and reparations.
Absolutely. Justice, reparations, racial justice. When we talk about racial justice and equity, it has financial consequences. And so just like with the report from North Carolina, California is going to be doing, we want to urge every state, and particularly African-American elected officials in all the states, to look at what is happening in California and make sure that each state has a racial justice unit.
Yeah, absolutely. So this, according to the Department of Justice, this bureau will focus on 6 areas: hate crimes and organizations, implicit and explicit bias in policing, law enforcement best practices, campus climate issues, and the task force to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans. Dr. Chavis, I want you to take a look at this fantastic video. Simone Biles has done it again. Let's take a look. A Appearing in her first gymnastics tournament since 2019, the 2016 Olympic all-around gold medalist dominated the field in the U.S. Classic and did something no woman has ever done before on the vault. All of the buzz entering the tournament was about her preparing to attempt what is called a Yurchenko double spike on the vault, a move that has never been performed by women in competition. Well, Simone Biles landed it. She said, I was just thinking, do it like I did it in training. Don't try to overdo anything because I have a tendency, as soon as I raise my hand, to overpower things, which I did a little bit, but at least I was still on my feet. It's a new vault, she said, and I'm proud of how today went, even though it was a little bit rough and uncharacteristic, but it was okay. To her, it was just okay. To us and everyone else, just amazing. Simone Biles, great job. What a great athlete, Dr. Chavis. Perhaps it's time to call her one of the best athletes of the 20th and 21st century.
Well, she's a great role model. We salute Simone Biles once again, a global champion. Representing Black women, women of African descent, great talent, great strength, great agility, and she's breaking all the records. And so we salute her on behalf of the Black press, and we hope that she stands as an encouragement to millions of other young women who want to get into athletics professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bobby Henry, our publisher down in Fort Lauderdale, who we always so glad you're watching, Bobby. Bobby says she's flipping into history. Good morning to Bobby. Good morning to Whitaker Mabel. David Youngblood, it's always great to have you. Joni King, Michelle Madison, and Norman Rich is watching this morning. And we want to say good morning, of course, to the Soul Doctor who's watching, but also our special guest, Kellene Diana. Kellene, very good morning to you and all that you do. We salute you. We congratulate you on Greenheart University. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good to have
Good morning, Colleen. Thank you so much for being with the Black Person for America today.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and just so our viewing audience will know, Kellene has a little bit of a delay, so bear with her. She's got some important stuff to talk about. Anytime we're talking about mental health and mental health awareness, it is very important. So, Kellene, tell us about Greenheart University.
So I'm really excited about Greenheart University. It all started from Greenheart Community, with a local nonprofit. We had about a community of about 1,800 people. A lot of people would come to me for advocacy and help. And it was just so much or too much for one person to handle. So I just said, I need to duplicate myself. I need to teach other people how to advocate and coach people who are healing from anxiety and depression, so that multiple people are getting helped at the same time. And so I just asked some of the people in my community who would like to learn how to advocate for others, how to coach others, how to direct and guide others who are healing from anxiety and depression. And I think like 400 and some people said yes. And so it just kind of took off. So it's all about just teaching other people how to advocate for other people who are healing from a mental illness. So that's what Greenheart University is. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm just really excited about it. Enrollment is now open for new students as well.
Yeah, and how does one enroll, and what, tell us a little bit about the curriculum, if you will.
So the if you want to enroll, if you want to become a certified mental health coach and advocate, you can request an application by emailing me at learn@greenheartuniversity.com. So the curriculum is 12 months, okay? In the freshman season, it's a solid foundation. You're learning how to create crisis plans to assist and direct someone who may have encountered a mental health crisis. So it's learn at the @ like learn at It's an email, learn@Greenheart University. So the freshman season, like I said, it's all about setting the foundation, learning all about advocacy, awareness, how to bring radical awareness, learning how to open up the conversation, learning what a crisis looks like, learning about suicide prevention. So setting that foundation, and then your sophomore season, once you graduate from that, then we teach you how to turn your impact into income. So learning how to turn your passion into profits, learning how to get and maintain your clients, learning how to get out into the community. So the curriculum, your junior season is all about creating digital products, since everything is digital now. So we want to make sure that our students know how to reach people across the globe, and the easiest, fastest way to do that is having digital products. And then the senior season is all about leadership and mentorship and getting into the community and execute some of the things that you learn. So that's the curriculum in a nutshell. So again, if you want to request an application, you want to email me at learn@greenheartuniversity.com.
Fantastic. And I know Dr. Chavis is standing by there, and all the way in Newark, New Jersey. Dr. Chavis, I know you want to jump in.
Yes, I really want to thank Kellene for what she does. Um, Kellene, tell us about overall how Black Americans can overcome the stigma of the need for mental health. That's the better thing. The need for mental health is part of being healthy today.
So the very first thing, the very first stress is awareness, and checking in with yourself. I call it doing some mirror work. So it's important that if we recognize that we aren't feeling well, mentally or physically, if we are a lot more agitated, if we are angry, if we are sad, things that we're not used to, we have to bring awareness to those things, and seek help. Seeking help is very, very important. And in our community, if you say that I go to therapy or something like that, then a lot of people in our community, will say, oh, she's crazy or he's crazy. And I really want us to get away from that stigma, because going to therapy and getting help doesn't make you crazy. It just makes you responsible. And I just feel like with all of the things that we've been through over the last year and a half, we all need help. We all need to process all of the things that we are visually seeing and hearing that has seeped into our spirit and caused us some feelings that we may not understand. So I think the important thing is just awareness and seeking help, getting a support system. If you would like to join our support system, you can absolutely do that. So yeah, that awareness and seeking the help that you deserve. Okay. That's what I would say.
Fantastic. And one of our viewers, Rosalind Mickens, she's noticed that warrior necklace that you're wearing. She says she loves it. Tell us about that, warrior.
Thank you. So when I first started this journey, I had a branding coach, and she bought me, every time she would see green stuff or something that would remind her of my mission, she would buy it for me. So the first thing she bought me was this warrior necklace, and that's what I am. That's what we are. We are warriors in this fight for mental health. In our university, we wear uniforms. We have green suspenders and green ties, and that is our armor that we wear in the fight for our mental health and yours. So the warrior, I wear it all the time because it's a reminder for me and you that that's what we are in this fight.
Yeah. Good morning to James Wright of the Washington Informer. Kellene, last year and again this year, first of all, let me just preface it by saying the color green represents mental health awareness. And last year and again this year, you did something incredible because of your work. Tell us what happened in Baltimore.
So I was able to light Baltimore City Hall green. And like you said, green is the nationally recognized color for mental health awareness. And, it's all about you don't have to have this boring conversation about what mental health is and this and that. You can bring radical creative awareness about how important it is to open up the conversation. So we lit the entire city green just to open up the conversation and to literally give the citizens of Baltimore and surrounding areas the green light to make their mental health a priority and to remind them that there is hope, and there is support, and they are not alone. So that is why we lit the city, and with partnering with Mayor Brandon Scott, it was amazing.
Yeah, awesome. And this year, of course, it was done virtually because of the pandemic. Dr. Chavis, I know that you come across in your circles a lot of experts on this topic. Dr. Chavis, I want you to discuss with Kellene and the Black community and what particularly African American experts are saying about where we are as the pandemic has continued on. I mean, things have opened up a little bit, but where we are in the last year, I think Kellene kind of went that way a little bit earlier. But talk to us a little bit more about that, Dr. Chavis.
Well, thank you, Kellene. The Centers for Disease Control announced several weeks ago that because of COVID and because of systemic racism, they've declared that systemic racism is a public health crisis in America, particularly for people of color. So can you talk about also how we need better strategies, not just how to cope, but how to overcome the mental situation, the stressful situation that systematic racism puts people of color of all ages and all communities in America?
Yes, so it's very sad, and I know that the Anxiety and Depression Association of America says that I think 30% of people who witness a traumatic event will have onset of PTSD. And when we turn our TVs on, when we turn the radio on, when we're scrolling down our social media, we are being exposed to traumatic events every single day, all day. And it's having a significant impact on not just us, but our children. And I just feel like there needs to be more strategies in place. There needs to be more advocates. Like I said, that's why I do what I do, because there needs to be, in addition to the nurses that are on the front line for the pandemic, there needs to be advocates like myself and counselors and therapists and, everybody in that space on the front lines as well for people's mental health and well-being. And I just think it needs to be more accessible. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be discussed on a regular basis. I feel like our community leaders, I had a meeting with Brandon Scott not too long ago, and I'm like, I feel like our community leaders at this point, mental health advocacy needs to be a part of their description, their job description. It's a responsibility for all of us to bring that awareness and strategies and partnerships so that we can address some of the things that's going to be the aftermath of what we're seeing.
Yeah, and Kellene, so you talked about having the conversation, opening up the conversation, but give me an example of perhaps you've come across situations where someone's been reluctant to talk about mental health. How do you break that ice in the conversation?
So, I teach in my school that it's important to be relatable. And I teach our students that it's important to share your experience. So share it in a way where it's not going to trigger your potential client or the people that you're talking to. But we've all struggled at some point in some way, shape, or form. But when you talk about what you had the victory over and what you have gone through, it's going to then turn around and open up the conversation or give that other person the permission to open up about theirs. So if I say, so for me personally, I am a survivor of anxiety and depression. And when I talk about that, a lot of people say, me too. How did you get through that? What did it feel like? Did you feel like this? Did you, now I'm so glad I met somebody who understands. So now you're opening up the conversation because you're bold enough to talk about what God has brought you through. And now it's opening up the conversation, and people are feeling comfortable with opening up about what they are going through. And now you can talk about resources and strategies, and, connecting people with who they need to be with. Because again, advocacy is just that. We're not counselors or therapists or anything like that, but we do know how to direct and guide our potential clients to where they need to go based on what they're dealing with or healing from.
Well, yeah, thanks for that. And it's good to see Cheryl Smith joining us this morning. One of our distinguished publishers, Dr. Chavis, is watching from Texas. Cheryl says community leaders need to help also, depending on their level of engagement in their communities. They are traumatized too. I see you immediately agree with that, Kellene. But here's another question too, Kellene, from one of our viewers, Rosalind Mickens. She says, how do we stay aware of what's happening around us and know when to take that mental break?
So when you feel overwhelmed, and I always say, it's important to take a social media break, because even if you're not watching the news at your home, you're going to turn on Facebook to look at some pictures, and then you could encounter something that's going to traumatize you. So I just like, number one, taking an intentional break. It doesn't have to be because you saw something, but it's just preventative. So taking a social media break away from the news and things like that, but also like checking in with yourself. Like I said earlier, looking in the mirror, not physically looking in the mirror, but just checking in with yourself, asking yourself, how am I feeling? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Am I feeling something that I've never felt before? So if you are, then more than likely your body or your mental health is trying to tell you something. And sometimes even physically, if you're not feeling well, it could be a direct result of how you're feeling mentally. So it's all connected. So it's just really having that self-awareness and knowing how you feel. And if you're feeling off, then you probably are, and that's completely okay. And you just need to get some support and really probably just talk about how you're feeling. But I would say just self-awareness and asking yourself the question, how am I, and answering it honestly.
Fantastic. Dr. Chavis?
Yes, I also want to join and give a shout out to our distinguished publisher, Cheryl Smith, who's also the Region 4 president of the NNPA. We have a lot of publishers throughout Region 4. We thank Cheryl Smith for joining the program. Kellene, what you're doing in Baltimore is so great. What about nationally? Other cities reaching out to you for Greenheart University? Because I think we in the Black press, we want to be supportive of what you're doing, not only in Maryland, but across America. How can we spread what you're doing in all of the states?
Wow, that's awesome. It's funny because a lot of my students are all over the country, and we're trying to figure out how to connect with other city governments to like their city as well, and to bring that radical awareness. It's been difficult to connect with a lot of other cities, but that's something that's definitely on our agenda. Because again, once you light the dome, then it brings so much conversation, and people are really, really seeking resources at that point. And then partnerships and coming together with other counselors and therapists. We're always looking for therapists to teach and to do guest speaking to our students, just to equip them even more. So any partnerships, please email me at learn@greenheartuniversity.com. So I just feel like all hands need to be on deck at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And our producer, I agree totally. She says your mental health is like your physical health. So use a sick day when you mentally or physically need it. And Kellene, having said that, when you speak to individuals like the mayor in Baltimore and other elected officials, does that ever come up in conversation about some sort of legislation to make sure that people are able to take, like, as Enchanta said, take a sick day when you're not mentally feeling up to it?
So I think that's very important. Most companies do give you an allotted amount of time to take for sick and, FMLA and, vacation and things of that nature. There are some initiatives happening in Baltimore that Brandon Scott did mention. He did mention something about employers, but they're still working out the details on that, so I can't really speak on it. But what I will say is, especially when all of that was going on with George Floyd, I could not process what was going on. When my daughter had to go to virtual learning, just the scary, the pandemic being so scary. I have taken multiple mental health days, and you do it unapologetically. You do it because you need to do it. We all need that break. So if your employer is not willing to provide that that assistance, or a mental health day, then use a sick day or use a PTO day, or look into FMLA. If it's something that's more short term, but you need more than a couple of days, look into short term disability, because sometimes we just need that break, and that's okay. Use the time that you have to take some time off, and really take the time off. Don't take the time off and do a whole bunch of different things. Take the time off to relax your mind and your mental and emotional state.
Oh, fantastic. And Kellene, as a quick follow-up to that, does an individual have to say, I need a mental health day? Should they just, if they're going to take a sick day, just say, I'm not feeling well? What is your recommendation?
They don't have to say anything. You're not obligated to tell your employer anything due to some privacy laws, I think HIPAA laws. You don't have to say anything. So you just say, hey, I need the day. Of course, every particular company has their own guidelines and rules. So make sure you're following whatever call rules or scheduling rules that your company has. But at the end of the day, you don't have to tell them what's going on. You don't have to do that. Now, I told my boss when with especially the George Floyd thing, because my employer sent out an email that really triggered a lot of people. And I just boldly said, listen, I need to take my mental health. I'm triggered, and I'm going to take the rest of the day off. And I said it unapologetically, because I'm not going to be any good to my clients or my coworkers or colleagues if I'm sitting here in this space and not feeling well mentally. And they honored that. They had no choice,
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like it's important to know your rights, to know what time you have available, and utilize it. Don't let it carry over to the next year. We all need a break.
Absolutely. Dr. Chavis, your closing thoughts?
Well, on behalf of the Black Press, I want to thank Colleen for her leadership and for your courage, because this is a subject matter that sometimes we don't talk about much in Black America. So we support you. We have two of our great papers there in Baltimore, the Afro and the Baltimore Times. And on behalf of all of our newspapers and publishers across the country, thank you for your work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't forget, it's not too early to register for the National Newspaper Publishers Association's annual summer convention, which is held virtually this year. And the registration is totally free. The conference is free, and you can register at www.virtualnmpa2021.com. Again, it's www.virtualnmpa2021.com. And we should have some great announcements coming up really soon about what to expect during that convention from June 23rd to June 26th. Let it be known, in the words of Cicely Tyson, challenges make you discover things about yourself that you never really knew. Everyone have a great day. We will see you tomorrow.